I'm Randy Robison. This is Life Today TV. I'm talking to Michelle Borquez, the founder, president of God Crazy Freedom Ministries and the author of the Freedom Series. Michelle, good to see you. Tell me about the Freedom Series. What are you covering? A lot of ground here, right?
Yes. Well, actually, we have 6 books out now. We have another 6 that we'll release this year, and it was really birthed out of my own experience of walking through a lot of things. When I was 15, I went through a rape situation, ended up having an abortion. Then I became a Christian, and about another 18 years later went through a very tragic divorce. And in those situations, just realized how important it was to have resources that really help you with walking that through in a way that can help you navigate how God would want us to navigate.
Now with Shine Magazine, which did you start that or?
I did.
Well, yeah, that was your
It's
deal.
my baby.
Yeah. Marriage was a big topic.
Yeah, marriage, family, and I think that's why when I went through it, it took me a long time to recover. I mean, it was my life, my dream.
Yeah.
And I was angry with God for a while, and probably for a year, I barely could get out of bed every day. I mean, it was so hard to press through that. And really, I went through a faith crisis too, because, I was like, Lord, I've done all the things, the things
Right.
that I'm supposed to do. I mean, I was a worship leader. I was, going to Bible studies. I was teaching at churches. I was doing the magazine, and yet could not hold the marriage
Why do you
together.
think that is?
Well, marriage is the most beautiful thing, but people are broken. People make choices away from God. And my sin was actually, out of his choices, was to get angry with God and make choices that weren't good for me. So I think that, really it's just brokenness, the choices that people make, and there's things you can't control.
At what point did you discover that God wasn't punishing you, he wasn't mad at you, that his love does endure forever?
You're gonna make me cry. I think out of everything that happened, that was probably the most beautiful thing, was to experience God on that level. I don't think God wants divorce, or I needed to go through that to experience it. But that's the tragedy that God used in my life. And it really was seeing God on a whole new level, because he pursued me in my unfaithfulness. And that because I came into knowing Christ as a non-Christian, I came in and I had been rebellious and done all the wrong. So when I became a Christian, it was like I should have this kind of life. I've done all these things. So it made sense to me. But when I was going through this trial, and then just feeling like I wasn't faithful to the Lord during that trial, because I really felt like he had let me down and failed me. And to see him pursue me, I didn't go to church for a year, and he brought people to my life, to my door. I mean, this woman, for example, I'll never forget this experience, because it was one of those days where I just felt so depressed, and I had thoughts of suicide. I mean, I didn't want to live. And if it wasn't for my kids, I had 4 children under the age of 5 at the time. Actually, under the age of 10. And, it took everything I had to be there for them during that time. And this one night I just thought, I'm just going to order pizza. And so the lady came to the door and knocks on the door, and I thought it was the pizza person, and it wasn't. It was a lady selling magazines, which was kind of ironic. I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
and so
she only knew.
Yeah, exactly. And she said to me, if you end up signing up tonight for a subscription, then I'll get a trip to Jamaica. And I was just like, okay. But I said, I just went, and I was so broken. I said, I just went through this horrible, tragic divorce, and I don't have the money to get a subscription. And I said, I'm so sorry, but I can't help you. And she just looked at me, this amazing African-American woman, and says to me, okay, forget the magazines. Can I pray for you?
Wow.
Yeah. Just forget and so I said, yeah, you can. And I'm going to try to talk about this without crying. And my kids come out on the porch, put their hands on me. She wraps her arms around me and just prays for me, this most beautiful prayer. And I knew that God was saying, you can run, you can hide, but I'm not leaving you. I'm here for you, and I'm pursuing you. And I thought, if he's going to come to my door, and it was just things like that. And he continued to bring those people to me, and during that time to prove to me that his love for me, and that changed me. That was knowing Christ on a whole nother level. I had known him and felt like I knew God, but when you realize that he will never leave you, he truly will never leave you, and he truly will never forsake you, and that his love is not based on my performance. Right. That was just because I was trying to perform and do all the right, because I was not a good performer before. So it's like I became a Christian. I'm like, I'm going to make sure I do it. I'm going to be God's girl and do it right. And then during that time, to see that his mercy and his love was there for me no matter what. And that's really why the Freedom Series. I actually take 20 women out and do conferences. We call it God Crazy Freedom Experience. And that's what we do. We tell our stories. And these women are all amazing women in leadership and ministry. And they share their story of hope and healing and what they've overcome. So.
Divorce to Wholeness is the title of this one we've got here. Are you whole?
I am. And that didn't happen at that moment when I talked about how that it took me a year and I came into knowing the Lord in a deeper way. That actually didn't happen until probably 4 or 5 years later, because I had never, if you can believe it, never been alone from the time I was 16 years old. And I had a bad relationship with my dad growing up. And I think that, the thought of I just didn't know how to be alone. I actually feel like I immediately thought about, I have to be with someone. I can't be alone. When I went through the divorce, I felt like a half a person, like I wasn't going to be whole until I was with someone. And God had to get me to the place, where I was, and he waited. And when I, just in those 6 years, and that's what I always tell people, pursue your own emotional health. Don't worry about what he did or the list of long things, because go and find out what God wants to do in you. And that's what I did. I spent about 6 years and 3 of it was counseling. And then it became a mentorship, just really making sure that I continued. Because I thought, if I ever do want to, and I didn't know if I ever wanted to be in ministry again, to be honest. But God had another plan. But that first few years, I thought I was pursuing my healing. And then, really just continued to stay in a mentoring situation. Because really, when you do find yourself alone and you don't really know how to navigate through that, you need somebody that's going to speak into your life. I always say especially to women who've gone through divorce, you can really easily get stinking thinking when you isolate yourself and you're alone a lot and you get depressed. And so I really encourage women to find someone who can continue to help them navigate through all those muddy waters.
Yeah, great advice. If someone wants to follow up and see the series, what's your website?
The website is godcrazy.org. And then also we have a DVD series that is liveagaindvd.com, which is the divorce DVD series.
For people who have been through a divorce.
Yeah, and it's a small group program, and it's phenomenal. Great, wonderful experts, and then also, again, the testimonial side of women who've gone through it.
Well, sorry you went through it.
Thank you.
But grateful that God made you whole.
Yeah, and I do want to say, because you had asked me about, just my whole now. That's really what was a result of going through that 6 years of pursuing my healing and realizing, in fact, I didn't meet my husband until I came to that place. And I had really decided I'm okay with being alone.
Yeah.
To also protect my kids.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how God works. He's so funny because I'm like,
You needed that.
Yeah, so.
He knows. He's taking care of you.
He is.
He just keeps doing it.
He does. He doesn't ever leave.
That's the way he is.
He just waits on us.
Yeah.
To get our, to come to him and say, okay, I surrender.
Yeah.
So.
Well, great stuff. Check out our website, godcrazy.org. And Michelle, thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.